Hello, students. I am now going to discuss Chapter 7 of Lord of the Flies, and this chapter is called Shadows and Tall Trees. Now, I don't have an exact reason why it's called Shadows and Tall Trees, other than shadows are something that block the light. Something has to block the light for a shadow to appear. So you can think of the light of the goodness of Ralph. There's a shadow now over that. In his life. So maybe that's a possible connection that you could make. Let's think about the beginning of the chapter. We have this description of the boys. They're described as dirty. All of the things on the island, all of the glamour, all of the optimism. Now Ralph sees the dirtiness of it. He sees the nubs of his nails where he's been biting. There's also a difference now between what was seen as glorious and pure and good at the lagoon on that side of the island, and you compare that to the wildness and the ferocity and the danger on this side of the island as they continue to walk toward the mountain. They have just left the Castle Rock, that the group of rocks off the side of the island, and Ralph's looking out into the sea, and he sees this very fearsome sea, and then suddenly he kind of snaps out of this daydreaming, and Simon is the one that snaps him out of it, and he says, "You'll get back to where you came from." This is on page 111, toward the middle of the top. And so Ralph's like, "What do you mean?" He says, "It's so big. I mean, all the same, you'll get back all right." "I think so anyway," says Simon. Simon has this eternal optimism, this goodness, this like everything's going to be okay kind of mentality. And of course, Ralph's like, "Well, you're a baddie, right? Meaning you're crazy, man." And he walks away from him. But there's something about Simon that's different. We just keep seeing that. Well, then they have this hunt for the pig. And for the first time, Ralph gets a taste of this kind of a hunt. Ralph sticks the pig, right? And he's trying to express to everyone else how amazing it is that he's actually the one that stuck the pig. And then Jack, of course, gets to describe the wound that he had from the tusk of the boar. Then they get in this, like Robert starts to act like a pig, and then they get in this circle around him and they act like they're hunting him. And they start to do things to him, and he starts to actually yell like he's hurt. And the boys are pretending like he's a pig, but they're really into it, like to a point where it's kind of scary. And Ralph feels something at this point. He feels this urge to hurt. And we wouldn't expect that from Ralph, but that's what we see here. So, what is it in human beings that we have this desire for violence or this desire for causing injury in someone else? What would cause that in the good character of Ralph? Something we can think about. Then we see another thing from Simon. This is number 6 on your sheet here. He offers to go back and tell Piggy. He offers to go by himself to cut back through the middle of the island. We already know about his little special place he goes with the butterflies. And so perhaps he plans on going there. But he's not afraid. He's not afraid. Everyone else is afraid. He doesn't seem to be afraid. We see the rising antagonism between Ralph and Jack on pages 118 to 120, to the point where Ralph says, "Why do you hate me?" at the bottom of 118. And then it says, "The boy stirred uneasily as though something indecent had been said. The silence lengthened." And then they continue with their arguing. And then at the bottom of 119, Jack, he comes right back at him. "I'm going up the mountain." The words came from Jack viciously, as though they were a curse. He looked at Ralph. His thin body tensed. His spear held as if threatened him. "I'm going up the mountain to look for the beast now." Then the supreme sting, the casual bitter word, "Coming." You can imagine Jack saying this, "Coming." Like, "Are you afraid, you little pest?" Okay. And so, the antagonism is just mounting, but it's not come out in physical violence, at least not yet. Then the rest of the boys, they decide to turn back. They're afraid of going up that mountain. They're really afraid of the beast. But Jack in his pride, Ralph in his pride, and Roger in his, I don't know, curiosity, they're all three going up the mountain at the same time. Why do you think it's Roger this time that decides to go with them? Think back to chapter 1. In chapter 1, it was Simon, Jack, and Ralph. Now it's Roger, Jack, and Ralph. Simon, this character of perpetual optimism, of goodness, of wanting good. He was in the beginning. Now in chapter 7, we're about in the middle of the book. We have the character who wanted to throw stones at little kids, who kicked down sandcastles and laughed. This kid that is furtive, he's secretive, he's quiet, he's brooding. Something not good about this kid. He wants to go up and see the beast this time. There's a transformation happening. It's not an accident that there's this parallel between the first chapter and this chapter of going up the mountain. And then finally, we see that genuine fear at the end of the chapter when the boys run away with their sticks, and it says that the sticks are dropped and the boys ran quickly because they see the beast, or what they think is the beast. It's the man in the parachute that goes up and then goes down with the wind. All right, so what's the purpose of this chapter? Well, one is to show these untamed parts of the island, Castle Rock, seeing the ocean. Then you can compare that with the lagoon, the peacefulness of that side. There's something about this side of the island that is really untamed, wild, and not civilized. We see that Ralph enjoys the hunt. This is really important. That Ralph can be one of these kids. Is he going to revert into becoming like Jack? Or is he going to stay true to his principles of democracy and goodness? We'll find out. Ralph and Jack's increased antagonism, that's definitely a purpose of this chapter. And then finally, Roger's role, which I just talked about, in that we have this brooding, ill-intended character now going up the mountain. Here's some questions to consider. Why is there this sudden craving for violence in Ralph? And why is there a craving for violence in anyone? Why this desire to hurt others? Why this desire for control or for power over other people? Why can't we just live and let live? Why is there this desire for that power and violence? Why do some people always feel the need to lead? They can't follow. Jack will not follow unless he thinks he's going to get something out of it. He does not want to follow. He wants to lead. And then finally, this idea of place. How does place affect the way that we feel, the way that we behave? We all have our certain homes, we have our communities, we have our countries, and we have those places we feel that are safe and those places that we feel that are dangerous. How do these things affect our lives? The lagoon versus the ocean, Castle Rock versus the huts on the beach, the evening versus the morning. All of these things, these are kind of contrasting things in this book of the good and the bad, of the fear versus the confidence, of the fun versus the rescue. So we see all of these kind of pulling things, and we also see Ralph and Jack pulling as well. And in the middle of it, Roger and Simon. So what's going to happen to them as we get further into this book? There's some major events coming, and I hope you enjoy the read, and I hope you think as you read. Enjoy.